Peak Cycles episode 73, and a happy New Year's to you. 2022, I can't believe it's 22 already. Seems like just yesterday we were all tripping out and panicking over Y2K. Remember that? Seems so silly now. Anyhow, we're going to keep the Peak Cycles YouTube tradition going by sharing some new product, or at least a new product. A couple years ago, we debuted the billet trees. Last year, we did the bent triple tree fork. This year, I've been talking about it here on the YouTube channel and kind of teasing on social media about that new 1.25" die and what we're going to do with that. So I'm going to share that with you today, but before we do, we're going to continue on with that oversized Schwinn build. So let's go ahead and hit the shop and see what's happening at Peak Cycles. And here we have our second test piece. Did I say second because I started off with a piece of scrap I had here in the shop. There's a 2-foot piece of scrap, which is 24 inches. It didn't reach the dropouts, so we need a 2.5-foot piece with 30 inches. Here I have some notes, and the lower number was when I was measuring in from 24 inches. Now we're at 30, so we're using the higher number. We're basically measuring from the end of the piece, the end of the 30-inch piece, this direction. So this 22 represents 22 inches this way, or 23. These are just some general areas I'm going to start. This here is how many pulls or notches on the JD bender. It's showing 6 notches. And so here's our first successful piece. And I have 23.5 inches from the end this direction, which basically tightened this up. You can see how much shorter this is to this. And what that did is it brought everything in. So let's go ahead and throw it on the frame jig and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And so here you go. And these compound bends are beautiful when you get them down. And right now we have this swinging out perfectly in line, exactly how we want it. We're going to sleeve the cantilever here, make it all look like one piece. Keep going. Going to back up a bit in case you're wondering how I know where I'm at with these numbers, and that is before I start bending, I use a Sharpie, and each one of these dots represent 1 inch. So I start with this end in the bender. My first bend is at 3 inches, and as I come out, that's how I figure out where I'm at here, counting from the end at 30 inches. Wherever that bend is right there represents that dot. And that's how I know I'm at 22 or 23 inches in from the end. Aha! That's how he does it. And so here we go in a nutshell. Double bend, compound bend there, looking good. All squared up in the rear. We'll fine tune it, but we're looking good there. So what we're gonna do now is sleeve in the cantilevers. Got the hard part out of the way. The compound bends here, and you can see that the angle of the bends are slightly different. You can see these are rising up and these are a little tighter, and that's the difference between 5-notch and 6-notch pull. And also has to do with the fact that the chain stays are going to come out from the bottom bracket, whereas the seat stays are going to come from the cantilevers. So one set of these are starting further in on the frame than the other. Throw it up on the jig. And so here we have rolled our cantilevers, and I mention this almost every time I do a frame video. And that is, in order to have matching radiuses on both sides for the cantilevers, you want to roll one single piece the length of both cantilevers and then cut it in half. And so here's our cantilever, and I cut the ends off that have the crimp from the bottle jack, and this is our center point, that line right there. And here's a little OCD trick I do. I basically draw the line where we want to cut in half. Then I make a star out of it like this. You know why? So then it makes 2 arrows pointing in, knowing that this is the center. And now I take this stick, and it's the same as folding it in half. Whether or not this changes when it gets to the outside, I don't know, but at least now I know I've taken one stick, cut it in half, and basically folded it in half. Aha! And this is where things start getting exciting and starts coming together. There's our sleeve, cantilever, into the chain stay. You look down the frame like this and it looks really good. My only concern is I'm thinking maybe roll another set of cantilevers even tighter, which will bring this up closer to the top tube like it should be. This doesn't look bad by any means, but I can reuse these cantilevers on another frame. So let's go ahead and give that a try and give it a look. Oh man, mucho better, in my opinion. Not only adding a lot more character with this heavier curve in the cantilevers, but the fact that this is flowing now with the top tube. Much better flow. How we're looking over the top? Perfect. Let's mock the other side. Well, kids, it's not getting much better than that. All squared up in the stays. Cantilevers. And before we weld up those sleeves, grind them smooth and cap off the ends, let's get to those chain stays. Okay, just based on this quick little mock-up here, I can see that the dropouts need to be shaved down slightly. Remember that blue tape line I snapped and mentioned that the dropouts need to taper in just slightly in, both top and bottom, and so that's what needs to happen. So we're gonna pull all this down, trim them up, and get everything squared up. Everything just mocked up in a general area right now, but we're very close. Wanted to see how we're looking before we move on, and I'm more than happy with this. Gonna cut and cap the cantilevers off there. Cut and cap the stays. Weld up that seam, grind it smooth. Keep it going. We are so close. Everything welded up, smoothed out, cantilevers capped off, seat stays, just a chain stays to go. But not till next week. Segment. I didn't even jump in. So much information, and I burned through that as fast as I could. However, with the holidays and another busy week, again, the frame had to be pushed in order for me to get to this 1.25" project and have it completed in time to share with you today. So I promise we'll get back on that frame, we'll finish it this upcoming week, and we'll talk more about it. Meanwhile, let's get back in the shop and see what's up with that die. Gonna finally get around to using this bad boy today. Got an 1.25 inch stick here. But before we get on this, we're gonna get on this. Haven't used the 1.25 inch dies sitting back there on this roller bender in a good minute. First piece rolled, nice and flat. Gonna jump in here real quick, and I just realized that after sharing everything with you today that I didn't demonstrate the new die. And I have done demonstrations on the JD squared in the past. Sometimes you just get working and on a roll and didn't think about it. However, with the new die, we are now able to bend 1.25 inch steel. I already had the rolling dies, and with the new JD die, we can make this hard bend right here. Keep in mind that for every diameter of steel you want to bend, you need to own the die for that diameter. I promise to use that and show it to you going forward. Also, before I jumped in, you saw I welded a circle up over the top, and what I did is at the beginning of the segment, there are those small cut pieces on the table, and what I've done is I double sleeved 1.25 inch down to 1 1/8, 1 inch, and now we're able to sleeve the 7/8 as we need. Welded up over the top and welded the sleeves together, grind it smooth. Are we ready for the finished product? Let's go ahead and take a look. Very happy with the result. And yes, those handlebars are as much work as what I just shared with you, and that was a very short, condensed version. With that said, the price is going to reflect. Now, I'm going to do another set for myself of the Twin Peaks here, 1.25 inch, and I've already come up with a few ideas to better utilize my time and bring that labor time down. Meanwhile, until I get a handle on it and really know what's involved with material cost and my labor time, at that point, I'll open it up to accepting orders. Meanwhile, those should look really good, whether they're powder coated or chrome plated, whatever the client decides to do. That's pretty much gonna wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed today's version of what's happening at Peak Cycles. And until next time, make it a killer year! Morning. Let that car go by. very happy with the result. And yes, those handlebars are as much work as what I just shared with you. Just ran out of breath.